Welcome to Block 4 of our Crazy Patch block of the month. This month's technique is pleating. The first thing that you're going to need to successfully achieve the pleats for your block will be a firm ironing surface. If your surface is a bit too spongy or soft, you're going to want to find a firmer surface before you start. The other thing that you're going to need will be a stiff piece of paper. I'm using a piece of cardstock or oak tag, a manila file folder, something stiff. Even one of those blow-in cards from the magazine or an index card will work, as long as it's at least 5 inches wide. This month, in addition to your block pattern, you have received a pleating guide that has been pre-printed for you on freezer paper. The first thing you want to do is find the lines that indicate cut here at the top and the bottom of the page, and cut your pattern into 3 sections. Once you've separated it, you want to take the center section and flip it over so that the glossy side is up. Take care that you're flipping the pattern in this direction so that your red lines and black lines stay oriented in the same direction. Do not flip it from end to end. And then find 2 scraps of freezer paper. Place them glossy side down and use them to tack that center section to your ironing surface. Now, take the top and the bottom and position them, overlapping them slightly and lining up the red lines and the black lines with the pattern underneath. The paper is slightly translucent and you should be able to see where you're positioning your paper, and iron it in place. Repeat the same process, lining up the bottom section and press it in place to create your pleating guide. Now that your pleating guide is firmly in place on your pressing surface, select the fabric that you would like to use to pleat in your project. Any of the fabrics in your kit can be used, and you can use the same fabric pleated in each of your 4 blocks you'll be making, or you can choose to pleat a different fabric for each block. Cut the selected fabric into a 5-inch strip and position it in the center of your pleating guide, face up, having the edge of your fabric at the edge of the paper. Using a warm iron, press it in place about to the line that's marked number 1. So I'm just going to secure this end in place. Your fabric will stick to the freezer paper. Now, there are arrows indicating which direction you will be flipping your fabric. So I want to take my cardstock and position it on line number 1 so that it's even with the line at the bottom and at the top. Hold the paper in place and flip my fabric back over top of it. Holding the cardstock in place, I'm going to use my iron to press my first pleat. Holding the fabric in place, I'm going to remove the cardstock. Now I'm going to place the cardstock on top of my fabric, aligning it with the red line marked number 2. Flip the fabric. Once again, I'm going to take my iron and press along the cardstock edge to give me a crisp pleat. Holding this in place, I'm going to remove the cardstock, position it on top of the fabric, aligning it with the black line that is numbered 3 on my pleating guide. Flip the fabric back over the cardstock and press. You'll notice that the red and black lines are not lined up in exactly the same position as you flip your pieces back and forth. The reason for that is so that your folds are not stacked directly on top of one another. That allows for a better distribution of the bulk. As you can see, by simply following the numerical order on our pleating guide, you can flip your fabric back and forth to create a pleated section as large or as small as necessary for the pieces you desire to cut. Now that I've chosen the positioning for my template, I can press the piece in place on top of all of the pleats. I've checked to be sure that I have seam allowance area on all sides, and because this is the template I've chosen, I can also remove these last pleats. Once you've pressed your freezer paper template in place on top of the pleated fabric, it's a simple matter of using your rotary cutter to trim away the excess fabric from all sides. Make sure that you leave a 1/4 inch seam allowance on each side of the template. At this point, the only thing holding your pleats in place is the freezer paper template itself. You'll need to remove this to cut the rest of your pieces, so we need to stitch the pleats in place. This is easily done by running a stay stitch or a basting stitch around the outside edge.